The American dream has run out of gas. The car has stopped. It no longer supplies the world with its images, its dreams, its fantasies. No more. It's over. It supplies the world with its nightmares now. The Kennedy assassination, Watergate, Vietnam. J.G. Ballard. I want to welcome you to another episode of Uninformed America, where today we're going to be talking about the, American nightmare. So why don't you sit back, grab a snack, and let's jump right on in. Well, we've all heard about the American dream, but what exactly is it? In layman terms, the American dream is all about the idea that no matter where you come from or what your family is like, you get big in life. It's about working hard, taking risks to reach your goals instead of hoping for good luck. So if you're willing to put in the effort, you can make your dreams come true in a country where everyone has a shot at moving up in the world. Well, that's how we're told how it's supposed to work. But does it really? And who came up with it? So before you jump in, you guys like us, comment, and subscribe. Okay, well, back in 1931, a guy named James Tressel Adams came up with the idea called the American Dream. He wrote about it in a book called Epic of America. Basically, the American Dream is all about wanting a better, richer, and fuller life for everyone. It's about having opportunities succeed based on your abilities and achievements. The American Dream became a big deal because the United States has some advantages that makes it easier for people to achieve their dreams, like owning a home and getting a good education, are often seen as important steps towards reaching, you guessed it, the American Dream. Over time, the American Dream has meant different things to different people. But one thing's for sure, it's a big part of what makes America special. Just a quick reminder, back in 1929, the U.S. was going through a rough time. Things took a turn for the worst when the stock market crashed in New York. In just 10 weeks, the value of stocks dropped by half. This caused a chain reaction rising up, and lots of people lost their jobs. We refer to this time as the Great Depression. By 1932, a quarter of all workers were out of work. The 1930s wasn't just a decade. They were a roller coaster ride of depression and financial turmoil that left everyone feeling like they were stuck in a bad dream. And who could blame them? With the U.S. throwing around financial policies and advice, it's no wonder things went pear-shaped pretty quickly. The Great Depression wasn't just a national tragedy. It was so much more. It was a global event that rocked the world to its core. And as the U.S. struggled to keep its head above water, its foreign policies took a hit too. Suddenly the land of the free and the home of the brave started pulling up the drawbridge and hunkering down like a kid building a fort in their bedroom. It wasn't just a lesson in economics, but a cautionary tale on how quickly things can go from bad to worse. So what triggered the economic depression? Well, Uncle Sam was feeling a bit down in the dumps from the Great Depression and still nursing a World War II hangover. All of this led to a wave of isolationism sweeping through the states. The trend was all about keeping Uncle Sam out of the drama across the pond and not getting caught up in international crap. Basically, America was like, hey, sorry, Europe and Asia, we got our own problems to deal with right now. Catch you on the flip side. Deuces! In the same breath, we were all caught up in our own dramas, screaming, "I swear we don't like drama. Drama likes us." While we were avoiding getting dragged into political military conflicts, on the other side of the world, the U.S. was busy expanding its economic empire and looking out for its own interests in Latin America. We were playing a real game of risk, with a lot less arguing and a lot more business deals. The leaders of the isolationist movement were all about making history, using history to back up their chill vibes. They even brought up George Washington in his farewell address. Basically, it was like, "Hey guys, let's not get involved in Europe's drama." And everyone was like, "Yeah, sounds good to me." With the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans acting as basically a moat, the U.S. was able to kick back, relax, and watch old world conflicts from the safe distance for most of the 1800s. Then along came World War I, and President Woodrow Wilson was like, "Hey, maybe we should get involved and try and keep the peace around here." Some folks weren't too thrilled about that idea, though. They pointed out that the U.S. didn't have much skin in the game, and the casualties weren't really worth it. It was like a reality check for Wilson and his crew, reminding them that sometimes it's best just to mind your own business and let other people duke it out. But, we couldn't. In the aftermath of World War II, Senator P. Nye cranked up the rumor mill that claims that American bankers and arms manufacturers were pulling the strings behind the U.S. involvement for their own gain. Shocking. Then in 1934, the book Merchants of Death hit the shelves, painting a picture of war profiteering that made even the most patriotic citizens raise an eyebrow. And when decorated Marine Corps General Smiley D. Butler released War is a Racket in 1935, it became pretty clear to the public had had enough of being duped into a war for someone else's pocketbook. Sounds like we're familiar. With the Great Depression looming large and domestic issues at the forefront, the idea of turning a blind eye to Europe's problems gained popularity. By the time the U.S. government became quite the pro at ghosting international conflicts, choosing a strict, "not our problem, bud," policy when it came to getting involved. Even the League of Nations got the cold shoulder. Congress wasn't about to get suckered into European drama, especially with the whole collective security clause hanging over their heads. And as for militarism raising its head in the 1930s, the League floundered without the support of the U.S. If only we had 20/20 hindsight, right? So who recalls back in 1931? Not us, but that was when Japan invaded Manchuria. It was like in after Thanksgiving Black Friday sale, prompting President Hoover and his sidekick Stimson to come up with the Stimson Doctrine, which basically said, hey, we see you over there being all aggressive and stuff, but we're not going to recognize any land grabs you make. It was like throwing shade on an international level. But there were more conflicts, like Italy invading Ethiopia and the whole Spanish Civil War drama. But the U.S. was like, nope, we're chilling over here. We'll just watch from the sidelines. Thanks. FDR came in with big dreams of the U.S. getting more involved in global affairs. But Congress was like, nah, man, we're good with our isolation of vibes, but thanks. FDR tried to pass a bill in 1933 to let him talk to other countries about reining in aggressors, but the isolation squad in Congress, led by Senators him, William, and Roberts, were like, no, dude, sit down. Then in 1935, there was drama over joining the World Court, with more isolationist haters coming out of the woodwork. As tensions of Europe heating up with Hitler's Nazi bullcrap, Congress was all about passing neutrality acts to keep America minding their own business. FDR was bummed about the restrictions, but he knew he had to play nice with Congress to get his domestic policies through. Politics, man. So who were these isolationists? That's a tongue twister. Well, they're a mixed bag of progressives, conservatives, business tycoons, and peace-loving activists. Talk about a motley crew. They ran their business with no fear of opposition from the internationalists, with victories coming their way time and time again. But then along came Roosevelt in 1937 with a speech that compared international aggression to a pesky disease that needed to be quarantined. But despite his silver tongue, the American people weren't quite ready to join the war. Well, just yet. Even after Europe erupted into chaos in 1939, over stateside, we were still hesitant to join in an international conflict. We preferred to build up our own gold reserve while providing aid for the Allies, just stopping short of diving headfirst into the mosh pit. It wasn't until the Japanese yanked the rug from underneath us at Pearl Harbor in 1941 that the crowd finally cried out for an encore. This time, with the U.S. as a star performer alongside the Allies, France, Great Britain, Russia, and China, ultimately becoming victorious, ending our isolation period. Well, let's get back to the American dream. Adams did an amazing job explaining how hard it is to understand something somewhat of a mystery like the European dream, a dream too often clouded by fancy cars and fat paychecks. The American dream, on the other hand, runs deeper than material wealth. It's a vision of a societal utopia where every individual can reach their full potential, regardless of their background or status. As the Declaration of Independence boldly proclaims, all men are created equal, with the right to pursue happiness. Americans began chasing after their own version of happiness and fulfillment. How was it achieved? Well, to snag that elusive American dream, you need a big old dose of political and economic freedom. Sprinkle in rules of law and a healthy dollop of private property rights. Without them, you're basically stuck in neutral, unable to make moves or feel secure in your own gains. It's like trying to bake a cake without any flour or eggs. The recipe's a disaster. The American dream is more like a fantasy that includes a magical fairy godmother promising the keys to the freedom and equality kingdom. It's all about having the power to call the shots in your own life, reaching for the stars and actually grabbing hold of them, stacking those dollars high, living with dignity, and staying true to your own values, even if you're a little, out there. Horatio Algier's tales of scrappy underdogs clawing their way to the top begin the blueprint for achieving the dream. Throughout history, the realization of this dream has been a bumpy ride, peppered with injustice and challenges that make you question if you actually stumbled into a nightmare instead. From settlers encroaching on indigenous lands to the not-so-pretty history of slavery and the exclusion of pretty much anyone from voting, it's safe to say we hit some roadblocks on the way to dreamland. And don't even get me started on the ever-widening gap between the haves and nots. So how is American dream measured? Well, by ownership. Owning a home is like winning the jackpot in the American Dream lottery. It's the ultimate symbol of financial freedom and independence. No more dealing with pesky landlords or their questionable taste in paint. And let's not forget about owning a business. Being your own boss is like being the captain of your own ship in the sea of enterprise ship. Small businesses are the backbone of the economy, creating jobs like nobody's business. Pun intended. Of course, access to education and healthcare are key players in this dream too, because What's good of owning a house or a business if you're not healthy or well educated?